Fuck, my childhood dreams are about to come true. Point of no return, people. How's it going, guys? My name is Vishwas and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to part 2 of the Pulsar Cafe Racer. What you're seeing behind me is my 2008 Pulsar 150. At least it used to be at some point in its life. In the last episode, we were faced with a big problem. How do I move this thing back? So in this episode, we are going to fix that problem by getting this hunk of junk able to move on its own wheels, by fixing the rear suspension seam and getting some other shit sorted. Just to see, in the rough vicinity of what we are going to be doing in today's video. So, without any further ado, let's begin, shall we? So if you remember from the last video, this is not how we left off. Of course, I had to get it moving, so I had to put all the parts back on, but I'm gonna save you the trouble of watching me rip all this apart again the second time. So yep, now that's a side we all love and remember. So what we are going to be doing today is trying to fabricate a monoshock mount to fit this shock absorber in the place of those old dual shock absorbers. So in order to do that, first we need to prep this swing arm. So what we need to do is make mounts. We need to make mounts for this shock absorber on this square. Before that, we need to clean this up. What we have here is a big box, and in this box are the tools which we will be using extensively throughout the series to be designing and fabricating the stuff and plates and mounts which we need for the bike, because, well, there's no other way of doing it. Easy way, at least. So what we have in this box is a marker, and absolutely nothing, because what we will be using is called CAD, not computer aided design, but cardboard aided design. So what we need to do in order to prepare this swing arm to accept this shock absorber is create mounts for it on this cross member. Now this is a cross member which goes in between, and the wheel goes in this vicinity, and this is where the kingpin goes for the swing arm mount. So this is the strongest point on the swing arm, which we are going to further reinforce with plates and to accommodate for the extra load which this area was not supposed to have initially, not designed for. So before we do anything, we need to get this cleaned up, because again, the perks of buying a 10-year-old bike is this swing arm has definitely seen better days. So let's clean this first.
Every day, I'd like to love you, love you. I'd like to love you, if I may.
So we're done cleaning. As you guys saw, first of all we washed it off with dish soap or bartan dhone ka sabun to clean off all the grease and grime which was on the swing arm itself, because this is the area where the chain goes, and this area is on every bike is usually covered with grease, and we do not want any sort of grease for the stuff we are doing. And as you saw, I also ground this section off. I also removed the paint off of this section, because this is the section where we will be welding a plate, steel plate, because we are going to be welding mounts for the shock absorber on an area which wasn't specifically designed for this purpose. So it's not a bad idea to just reinforce the area with more metal.
to love you, love you. I like 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 to love you night and day, if I may. I like to. I like to love you every day. I like to love you, love you. I like to love you, love you.
Now these are the plates on which the mounts shock absorber. Now these plates will be mounted on the shock absorber as such. This hole will be bigger to accommodate for the half-inch bolt of the shock absorber, and as you can see, these plates by themselves are pretty thin. That is why we'll be having two plates on each side of the shock absorber mount, so that they are like pretty sturdy. We used CAD, which is like cardboard aided design, and this is the shape we want all four of these plates to be. Now as you can see, these four plates in the rough vicinity but not the same, so we have a lot more work ahead of us to do, for honestly. So without any further ado, let's begin.
I like to. I like to love you, love you. If I may, if I may.
It is the next day. The bike is under the wraps and I'm in different clothes. And ouch, shit. We just got back from the welding shop. We got the mounts welded and they don't look so pretty right now. Today's agenda, we are going to get this cleaned up, put it on the bike and see what more we have to cut to make room for the monoshock. And I think we have to cut a lot.
I like to love you, love you. I like to love you night and day, if I may.
Here we are. We got the rear swing arm mounted, and to no one's surprise, the monoshock doesn't fit. See, that's where it hits and it doesn't want to come here. Now that's not where it goes. It is supposed to be this way, so the mounts are going to be here. So the chassis of any Pulsar, to be honest, Pulsar 150, 180, 200, 220, any Pulsar was not built to have a monoshock suspension, and that would be a problem, but not for us because we don't intend to keep any of these frames. Now I already knew about this problem. This was one of the main reasons why I bought this bike, because I didn't need much of it. I already knew that this was going to be a problem and this was something I was ready to deal with. I just wanted you guys to know what's happening, what's the status, why we're doing it, and we would have done it anyways, so let's get to the fun part. As you can see, the swing arm is off again. And before we get to cutting, there's a few things we need to keep in mind. Even though we'll not be using much of this rear section, there are a few things which we will be reusing. Mostly this lock, these mounts for the DC converter, I don't know what that was. This mount for the tank, this is where the CDI originally mounted, and some other stuff. Also, rest of it we won't be using, but we will attempt to remove this entire tail section as one piece. Why? Because these are some complex bends, and when we make a custom rear section, it'll be handy for us just in case if we mess up or we need something for reference. These complex bends will really be helpful to either replicate or patch up any of our mistakes. Now the second thing we have to keep in mind is that we don't accidentally cut off any electrical connections. Now there isn't much electrical connections left on this bike because, well, we removed the wiring harness, but there are a few electrical connections remaining. Namely, we have the main body ground, which goes to the negative terminal of the battery and then goes to the starter and is the engine ground. That's easy stuff to take care of. The third thing, and the most important thing we need to take care of is that any foreign debris does not enter the engine. As you can see, there are a few open hoses. These hoses are for the engine ventilation, crankcase ventilation. So we will be closing these off and being careful not to chop this off. Particularly worried about this hose because it's right in the area of cutting. So cross our fingers and hope that we don't mess stuff up more than it actually already is messed up. So let's get chopping again. Point of no return, people. Safety first. Safety glasses. Have a mask. Can you see what I'm seeing? Yes. Now we are ready to do it. Always wanted to do this. Fuck, my childhood dreams are about to come true. Always wanted to do this. Under better circumstances though. Anyhow.
Night and day, if I may. I'd like to. I'd like to love you every day. I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you. If I may.
Yes! This is officially the point of no return. So as you guys saw right there, we kind of got it in one piece. We started off good here, but it was really a pain in the ass to get the cutting wheel in this area, so I thought it's a good idea to just cut it off here and deal with this mess later, because this is where the swing arm pivot actually goes. So this is a very crucial point on this entire frame. So I did not want to mess this up. So now the next plan of action would be to try and get these off. Again, there's a weld here. It was really hard to cut down here with all the stuff in between, but now that we have all this real estate, I think it'll be comparatively easy to cut through this. This part is again going to be a pain in the ass, like I tried already here. This place, I tried cutting on the welds first, thinking that this plate might let loose of the pipe, but no, like I think we'll have to cut this plate off first. Great focus, people. So, efforts. We'll have to do something.
I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you night and day, if I may.
And just like that, it's the next day. Let's get painting.
I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you. If I may. I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you night and day. If I may. I'd like to.
Now that we're done painting this, it's time for the most interesting thing we can do. Watch paint dry. Just kidding. We have more important stuff to do. Like figuring out where this mount is going to go.
I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you. I'd like to love you night and day. If I may.
So here we are, the tank is in its final place, the swing arm is actually mounted this time. Why? Because one, I needed to check clearance. If I wanted to check whether if the shock mounts will interfere with the tank mounts whatsoever, and here we can see there is more than enough space for both of them to live here happily ever after. So now what we are going to do is start cutting out mounts, start cutting out plates for this thing. What we can see is we want the bolt to go through here so that it's easy for us to remove and service the bolt so that it doesn't get stuck anywhere. So the plan of action right now is we are going to start building the plates, the mounts, the actual mounts themselves. Now that we know how far the shock absorber will be to the actual mount, and now that we have a visual on where the tank will sit with respect to the frame, so now we can build plates to join them to the frame. Now we won't be able to completely fabricate the top mount for the shock absorber just yet, but we know that this tube is supposed to land somewhere in this vicinity, and then the shock mounts, the top mount for the shock will come off this tube just as we did on the swing arm, so that we have a sturdy, stiff top shock mount. As you can, this tube is plenty thick to not twist under any sort of load. This bike will be able to generate on the shock absorber, and for such a short distance, such a short load, that is beyond science, and this will be just fine. So, update as to what is going on with the mount. We just got the pipe cut out. Oh, still too hot, but still we will. So, as you can see, we got the pipe cut. We got the tube cut to actually half an inch larger than what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 3.5 inches. I cut it down to 4 inches, and we can later notch it when we are about to weld it. This will go right here in between these two spots, which are clean right now, but again we'll have to do more cleaning when we actually go to weld stuff. So that is where we are going to call it for this episode. We got the frame cut up, all the pieces which we need to fabricated pretty much for the entire suspension system. We got all the pieces ready to be welded, and that is what you can expect to see in the next episode, where we will be welding up this chassis to get it closer to where it is. Obviously there's a ton of work which has to go into this bike to actually even call it near to finished. The footrest, the brake system, the actual seats, body panels, tank mount situations and stuff. So there's a fair bit of work remaining, but stay tuned and we'll get this bike up and running in less than no time. So that's going to be it for today. If this is the sort of stuff you like seeing, do leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, and we'll freaking see you later. called CAD, not computer aided design, but cardboard aided design. You guys can see this. Archaeology. Just as we did on the swing arm. Shut up, people. The designing and manufacturing. Designing and wash this with this soap. English, bro, English. First of all, we washed it off with dish soap or बर्तन धोने का साबुन to. So that's where we are going to. So that is where we are going to call it here. So that is